How much of a role do you have in being an advocate for the function of journalism? Balanced, or how does that balance against your role in the PR goals?
I'm not really an advocate for journalism. That's not part of my job. We have others in the company, as you might expect, the editor of the Chicago Tribune or the editor of the LA Times, or our publishers, or the leaders in our newsrooms on the broadcast side. Those folks are advocates for journalism. I have to be an advocate both inside and outside the company for the company itself and for its employees. So that's what I try to focus my energies on.
Let's talk about trust and credibility for a few minutes. How do you build that within an organization?
I think you have to be willing to work with everybody. You have to be a team player. You have to step up and be willing to help. And I think you have to exercise good judgment. I think in doing those things and doing it again and again and again over time, you engender trust and you engender a certain level of confidence that enables you down the line to push back when you feel like you need to speak out when you feel like you need to, and to have your opinion matter, even if it's not necessarily an opinion that everybody around the table agrees with. I think you have to be willing to demonstrate that you are able to and willing to push back from time to time, because I think actually that engenders even more credibility. And you have to also be willing to know when to fold up your tent and say, okay, I lost on this one, and not have it matter. It can't be, this isn't something you can take personally. I work in a large company. When I joined the company, there were 24,000 employees. There were dozens of senior level managers. There were probably 100 senior level managers across the company, all of whom looked to me to lead the communications function, all of whom had very different personalities, all of whom had to respond to their own business needs and concerns. I built credibility with that group by demonstrating good judgment and by being willing to listen and to go the extra mile for them, which at times literally meant, whatever time of day or night, I live by my cell phone and my email. But after a while, what happens is people know they can rely on you, and so they come looking for you. And more, and I know you're going to get to this, more and more I feel like my job is less about the practice of public relations and more about the art of management consulting than it's ever been. I have advised the CEO of our company about everything from security issues in the wake of 9/11 to safety issues relating to our employees, to business continuity plans that have to get developed, to layoffs, to employee benefits, to healthcare benefits, to a variety of topics that aren't just always about communication. In fact, there are moments where you will sit down to pull together a presentation and an executive will look at you and say, well, what do you think I ought to say? Now you can cower from that. You can sit there and say, well, geez, you're the CEO, you're supposed to be telling me. Or you can come in with a sense of what the company is about, what you think its mission is or ought to be, and you can be, within reason, bold enough to say, well, were I presenting to this group, I'd want to know about X, Y, and Z. I'd want to say to them the following 6 things. I've had more than my share of executives say, that sounds good, let's do that. You know, I mean, in the wake of 9/11, I sat down at the end of the day, on that day, with the chairman and CEO of the company and with the treasurer of the company. And the treasurer happened to have the building security people reporting up through his organization. And we had spent the day communicating to our employees about early dismissal, about coming back to work later in the week, et cetera. The 3 of us sat down and the CEO and chairman looked at me and said, what else can I do to make our employees feel safe? What can I do around the building to make our employees feel safe? What can I do at our business units to make our employees feel safe? And, you know, yes, inside there's part of you that says, I'm the communications guy. I shouldn't be advising you on this stuff. But there's also part of you that seizes the moment and says, well, as an employee of this company, I don't like the fact that, you know, the entrance to our building isn't monitored by security personnel. Here's what I would do. We can put security personnel in place in the lobby. We can develop an ID system where people have to card their way in to get access. We can improve the security patrols around the building. We can put cameras up in the parking lot. You know, there are a variety of things you can suggest, none of which have anything to do with communication or public relations. They have to do with making your employees feel safe. But that was a situation that I loved, because that truly, I felt like, you know, this is a situation where you're working as colleagues together to deliver something better for your employees. And who wouldn't enjoy that?
And there's always ultimately a communications function involved with these things, right?
Well, because what the CEO and chairman was essentially saying to me is, what can I tell our employees that will reassure them about our environment? And, you know, when you ask the question like that, it is incumbent upon you to know what the existing security and access systems are, and to know what you might want to recommend that would make people feel safer. So, you know, eventually you're going to be communicating about what has been done or is being done. And, you know, when Arthur Andersen was imploding, when there was all sorts of focus on corporate ethics and business models that, you know, when the world was discovering that people were trumping up earnings reports and things of that nature, I sat down with the CEO and said, we need to talk to our employees about why that can't happen here, about the checks and balances we have in place, especially since so many of our employees own company stock. We need to be reassuring them that Arthur Andersen can't happen here, that the company's ethics are such that, and the checks and balances that we have in place are such that it can't go on here. And we did. That was something that, you know, that's an issue where, that's an instance where you get to go to the CEO and recommend something that may not even be on his radar screen. And hopefully you're working with a CEO that looks at that as an opportunity and says, wow, you're right, let's go do that.
Do you think your experience in terms of counseling and advising is typical of folks in your position?
I think at the best companies it is. I hope it is. But I think at the best companies it probably is. I think in order to do your job effectively, you need to have unfettered access to the executive management team. You need to be a part of the executive management team. The thing that I love probably most about my job is the fact that I sit kind of at the hub of everything. And I'm not the guy who's going to make the decision that we should invest in this, or change this policy for our employees, or decide we're going to divest this business. But I am in a position where when I'm knowing about those things, I can advise the executive management team, of which I'm a member, how it's going to be perceived by our employees. How is it going to be perceived by the marketplace? How is it going to be seen on Wall Street? And what are the implications for the different audiences that are going to be affected by the decisions that we make? And then I can be in a position of being a true consultant, not just on the communications side, but on things that can be done to mitigate the negative impact of something we might be doing. And those things, I think, are important, and that's what makes my job fun. It's what turns me on about what I do.